Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going today? Wanted to show you something that I'm really excited about. This wasn't something that I had planned. I did have it planned for the future, but it came around, the money was right, so I decided to go ahead and move forward and make a purchase with it. What this is going to be is the Brembo kit, supposedly off of a 2016-17 Hyperblue STI. Basically what I was told is that you're not going to need any adapter. These aren't the Cadillac ones, they're straight STI to WRX right now. So I test fitted one in the back here and fits really well, no issues. You do have to change out your rotors, and since I already had them off, I went ahead and painted them black rather than having the kind of rust type brown look on them. So hopefully that high temp paint holds up pretty well. But these are what the bigger fronts look like. Pretty sweet, no complaints. For the price that I bought them for, they don't have to be completely perfect, I guess looks wise, although there's hardly any type of scratches on it. I mean, they look really good, and then once they're behind the actual wheels, you're not going to see anything. So right now I'm just working on doing one side, figuring out the whole process, as well as I'm going to do the front, and then I'll show you my process for getting these Brembo brakes installed. So I wanted to give you a difference between the two. These are actually the rears. So this is the stock, I guess, rotor here, and this is the Upgrade STI one. Now whenever I got these, they did look like this, so as you can see, like, just painting it definitely makes that much of a difference. But for the calipers itself, you can see this one here, and then here's the Brembo one. The Brembo one itself is actually quite a bit bigger. Length about the same width, but the I guess the length is about the same, but the actual chunkiness of it, meaning the width of it, is a huge difference. As well as the width of the rotor itself. You can see this one, it's here, where with this one it's actually vented. Whenever you're looking to remove this, you're going to remove the brake line here, or the brake holder, which is a 12mm, and then there's a 14 right here. Don't be confused by the ones actually attached to your brake. There's a 14 here and then a 14 on the other side. You're going to remove those as well. Alright, so I have the actual brake caliper itself pushed up there, as well as one thing to go ahead and do is just spray this 10mm down. I've used a combination of brake cleaner as well as PB blaster just to get it as clean as I can, because that bolt's known for stripping pretty easily. Now to take off your actual, I guess you would call it your drum yourself, what I've seen from a 3D Zeros channel is just to thread the 12mm that was holding your brake lines. Screw that in there, and as you tighten it down, your rotor, this will just pop right off. So now that the old rotor is off, basically the next thing that I do is I picked up a pair of these and just basically cut this off. Reason for is because the new rotor you put on sticks into it, and all that would do is just grind. So this is just to show you the cut that I made. As you can probably see, it's not perfect cut. I originally tried to use the Dremel, but it kept on, I don't know, I guess just spinning the blade to where it was actually just melting the actual post that it was seated on. So just cut it off. Made it a whole lot easier. Gonna file it a little bit, but also you want to trim some of this off as well. on each side, otherwise your Brembos are going to hit that, and if you start trying to fit it, you're going to scratch them up as well, or at least it looked like I was about to scratch them up before I realized what was going on. So I'm going to fit the rotor on here as well as start putting the caliper on. Now I have the rotor fitted on here. It's simple, just push on, and it is the same dimensions as the other one, it just sticks up more. So, and it's a little bit wider, but you basically just fit this, put the two, you're actually going to upgrade the bolts, which I didn't even realize. They're 17s now rather than these. If you look on the back here, it says 10. The ones that I have have an 8 on them. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I know the thread is the same but just longer, and actually the thread is different and it's longer, and it upgrades from a 14 to 17, so not exactly sure, maybe someone else can answer that one. The next step is just use a 10mm, and it's good if you actually have like a line wrench where it's one that fits in that has more points on it. The one that I have is just a standard wrench, so I have to work at it a little bit and just try all these sides until it comes loose. But once you have it actually taken off, if you see right here, there's a shim, just basically a flat piece of metal with a fork on it. You pull that out as well, and you can remove everything here. You are going to lose a little bit of brake fluid, so it's good to put a towel underneath, as well as whenever you start unscrewing, you want to put the new one on as quickly as possible. I now have them installed. Basically this is a little bit of a pain to unscrew, but like I said, if you use some brake cleaner or PB Blaster, you should be able to get that off. But don't try to force it, just slowly just hold tension on it until it breaks. As well as whenever you put this line on, have it screwed back in now, but make sure you run it underneath here. Otherwise you're going to pull this down and it could cause an issue later. Whenever you actually connect it on the other side, mine were already connected here with the banjo bolt, but if yours are not, then it's basically you fit a washer and then your brake line, another washer, then put the banjo bolt in to secure everything. So the only thing left really is just to bleed them. I'm going to move on to the fronts, figure that out, and basically once that's done, the car is going to be ready to go. What I also wanted to mention was that there's a rubber grommet right here, and that was just from the factory one that I had. So you want to make sure to transfer that over for both of your rear brake drums here. So with the fronts, sorry I didn't film it, but it's basically just the same as the rears. You unscrew the 12mm right here, and then there is the connection here. In the little flange I was talking about on the rears, it comes out towards you, unless well, no one else had touched my car. So on the rears, yeah, the flange comes out towards you, and then on the fronts it comes out this way, and there's a little piece right here that you can kind of bend back, pull it out, and then slide it back in, bend it back down. And that was where I had a little bit of an issue. Moving on to the brake itself, in the rear where it actually connects is the our 17mm bolts. Whenever you remove the two 17mm bolts, the old one should slide off. The new one here had 19, which is pretty large, and we actually did have to use a impact gun to get the 17s off on the back. I could have done it by hand, but it's easier whenever you actually have help with the impact. Bolting it right back up, pretty simple. With these Goodrich lines, you can kind of slide it in and out of this hole here to get the correct fitment that you want. Now I'm basically just going to do bleeding the brakes. I started doing it last night, but I got kind of frustrated. So the reason why I got frustrated is I couldn't get a good seal on the bleeder valve, but gonna work on that now. So the way you want to do it is the passenger rear inside, then outside, and then driver rear inside and outside. Move on to the passenger front inside outside, and then you want to move last to your driver inside and then outside for the front. Basically you want to get as far as away from the slave cylinder itself and bleed everything around. I also wanted to point out that whenever you're removing the, well, not removing, but just loosening the 10mm right here, it wants to strip basically every time, unless you have, I guess, one of those wrenches that actually fits all the way around where you have connections on all the different edges of it. But just for a regular wrench, it's almost difficult. So what I did is, once I tried it, I felt like it started to strip. I grabbed these and basically clamped it on, and I clamped it on where I could barely just pull it to secure it, where it was so tight that whenever I actually broke it loose, it just popped and flew off. But I got a connection that was super tight, and then was able to use these to break it loose. So just a heads up, you may want to grab these whenever you're doing this job to prevent having a nut stripped and kind of being screwed from there. So I finally finished up with the brake install here. It was just time consuming. I didn't run into any issues throughout this install. The only thing that really just kind of stunk is whenever I was bleeding it, the vacuum pump I was using, since I was doing it by myself here, doesn't really create a good connection to be able to tell whether the bubbles are coming from the lines or from the actual hose itself. So what I did was I just unscrewed everything on here and let it kind of drip, bleed, then clean the calipers off really well. And once it actually just kind of bled to where it was a constant flow, I first started pumping the brakes and then put just kind of like a stick in there to hold it really tight, then cracked it loose a little bit and pumped it a little bit more, cracked it loose again, and then the final thing that I did was actually just undo it a little bit after I had pressure on the vacuum and just suck a little bit more on it. So not 100% sure that every single little bubble of air came out, but whenever I went and did my test drive, it handled really well, and as soon as you just barely tap the brakes, you can feel it starts engaging, which is way different from the WRX, because it felt like I had to push about a good quarter until they really started to get on it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this install. I'll be showing you some more stuff this coming weekend, just looking at some cars, and I'll be able to actually put this in the light at a good spot and really show you the looks of it. Hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, happy driving and enjoy. I also wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Maverick. He's the one who I purchased these brakes from. I want to let him know that really appreciate you helping me out with getting a good deal on these, as well as I know I'm going to enjoy them here in the future. I also wanted to give a shout out to my friend Steven, who gave me some great tips on being able to bleed the brakes.